And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to the SD Hist Spring Deployment. I'm Mo from Mo's Game Table, and joining me is my co-host, Harold Buchanan, the confather of SD Hist. And we have a couple special guests from Revolution War Games, Roger and Richard. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
How is the con going for everybody so far? I know Harold's really tired.
I'm a busy man.
I'm interviewed out, so I intend to just zombie here and look at you all.
There you go.
Is it okay if we call Richard and Roger? I mean, I'm asking Richard and Roger. Can we call you guys R squared just to be brief?
I don't mind.
Whatever.
You can call me Superman too. I don't mind that either.
That's right.
And, you know, we did say special guests. So not only do we have Roger and Richard here, but we have another special guest we're going to bring in. Gene the Man Billingsley himself.
Oh, no.
How's it going, Gene?
We got to share time with him?
Man, they have lowered the bar, haven't they?
Welcome to the show, Gene.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're live, Gene, and we've got we just came off of a GMT State of the State presentation. Gene gave a good summary of what's going on and raised some interesting questions about inflation and its impact on the game business, which we won't even have time to discuss, but maybe we can cover with Richard and Roger later. But then we had a host of, Gene, how many did we have? 15 designers there?
17. Yeah. Good group.
It was great. Yeah, good fun.
And it was great hearing all the background of what's going on with GMT, you know, how the whole past year has affected the company and, you know, moving forward, what's going on. And then answering the question that I had, that was awesome too, about coin, digital coin. Call it Bitcoin.
I'm hoping we get to see some of that. We'll see.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool. And, you know, with Labyrinth already in there, that's kind of got some of that framework. So that would be something they can build out from to do Labyrinth, like you were saying with Twilight Struggle and the next Twilight Struggle game.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it from a programming point of view, from their side, the Labyrinth is a lot closer to Twilight Struggle, which is why it was easier for them to do. And Coin is more like pretty much reinventing the whole engine. But that doesn't mean they wouldn't do it, because there's obviously a lot of Coin content that once you have one, the other ones aren't so hard.
Sure. But that'd be a great line for them to have. And what about Roger and Richard? You guys looked at any of the digital content for your games?
Oh, are you kidding? We can barely get out our physical content. I mean, I do have a technical background, and I know what it takes to get these things out. We would have to work with some third-party developer for sure. Way back in the day, I think someone approached us from France wanting to digitize Battles of the Bulge Cells, and we basically wrote a synopsis of it, and they never got back to us.
Yeah, that's
that also happened to us many times. We just got lucky.
Imagine.
We got lucky with Playdead.
Yeah, nice. Very nice.
So we're supposed to ask Roger about Newbie of the Year award. What's that all about?
So years ago at a convention, the guys who run the board game boot camp had these awards for the veteran wargamer, the grognard wargamer, and the rookie wargamer. And it was the end of the con, and they realized they didn't have any rookies. So I got the rookie award in my 43rd year, and Richard got the grognard award. So I am proudly a rookie wargamer. So
that makes me a grognard. Watch out.
That's great.
That means I'm persnickety.
Well,
we're not that bad.
Gene, I just wanted to take the chance to thank you for your support of the convention over the years, and not just you, but your ideas, the designers, everybody. It's just been fantastic for the SD HistCon. So I know your time is limited, but I just wanted to say thank you.
I appreciate that. Just about everything we do at GMT is as a team. We have a good team of people, and we recognize another good team when we see it. So that's what I see with you guys at SD HistCon. You do it first class. So we're happy to help in any way we can.
Great.
I did promise my wife that, I wouldn't be on here too long. So she's been patient. I think I owe her a movie at this point. So,
Yeah.
So what movie? What movie?
Her choice. What am I going to do, right?
You better watch out. I like the Hallmark
2 hours, so it's a patient woman.
You'll be watching Hallmark. Watch out.
No, that could totally happen. You're right.
Yeah.
But it's good to see you guys. Roger, I look forward to seeing you at another weekend at the warehouse as soon as we can do those. Always enjoy that. And hope everything is going well with you guys in your business too.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Gene. Part of the shelf is dedicated to GMT, so I've done my part.
We both have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Haven't we?
Well, I wish you all the best, and I'll talk to you all soon, I hope. Take care.
Thanks for stopping by, Gene.
How do I get out, Harold?
You can't. You're trapped now.
No, you didn't tell him that. Oh, okay.
It's that leave studio button.
Oh, I should have locked him in. He doesn't know about that. No.
Yeah. So
No,
did you, R Squared, did you guys get a chance to walk around the con? Did you see anything interesting?
I know Roger has. I've been so busy trying to do our recordings. And after we do our presentations during the day, I'm like, wow, I'm tired.
Are you, so you're recording your presentations?
Yeah. So I got OBS and I tried to record them. So we'll see how they turned out.
Oh, good.
So, I got like 3 hours of content and it was like 2 gigabytes. So not hideous, but it's still a lot of data.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it does. It captures everything, right? It does
everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Discord owes us a nice recorder, right? And I don't think technologically it's that tough. And if we're going to store it on our machines, it's really not asking a lot.
Correct.
True.
Roger, what did you see?
Well, I really enjoyed everything because I saw a ton, but I will make special attention to the Zenobia Award show last night, where I got to see, I forget if I got the count right, 4 or 5 designs, and I was blown away by the quality, the complexity, the poise of the people presenting them. And I couldn't believe that for several of these people, it was their first game design ever. And such an amazing products that they were turning out. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcome of that whole competition. And certainly if Gene doesn't grab a couple of those, we'll be right there.
Well, you all signed on early as publisher sponsors and supporters of the award, and we appreciate that. I think we had a quick discussion, and you said, "Yeah, we're in," and that's excellent, and adds so much to the credibility and the power of the award. I think as we all try to mentor these people through a complicated, tough process that we all know about. But I'm convinced that out of the 40, I guess we're at 45 now that are planning to provide prototypes to the judges and to the board. That there's going to be a lot of games that will fit many of the publishers that have signed on. So I would love to have you guys involved. And it's not just publishing, right? I mean, publishing means that you're going to have to do some development with the game, right? Polish it, make it live up to your standards. And I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff come out of this and get published someday.
I agree. I think the cream is definitely rising to the top with the Zenobia Awards, just from what I've seen of it and all the submissions. I've been very impressed with them.
Yeah, and when you think about it, if we get think about just one historical game designer that comes out of this that publishes their first game, perhaps they probably don't stop there, right? So over their careers in game design or their hobbies in game design, they publish another 4, 5, 6 more. So this is really we're planting the seeds of what really could be a wonderful harvest in the long term. So I share your enthusiasm.
Well, it's a good platform for them to learn also, and the whole design, develop, testing. So I just think it's a great platform for folks who want to get into game design.
Think of imagine, Volko Runke is your mentor, right? In game design. I mean, and Jason Matthews and Jeff Engelstein and Cole Worley, as mentors, right? I mean, what a gift. So yeah, we couldn't be more excited about the potential. Roger, what else did you see?
Well, I just watched people playing, People Power or Volko demonstrating his stuff, Mike showing the Wolfpack game. I mean, there was just so much to walk around and stick in and look at. So I saw a ton of different games being shown off, and Gina and Jerry, and I mean, there's just a lot to look at.
Yeah.
So
yeah, agreed. And a lot of people excited about Cells after your presentation.
Yeah, I kind of chose the 3 games like out of a hat. We originally were just going to do the Deadly Woods because it's the new game, and we knew we would get a good crowd for that, which we did today. But then we said, well, we should do something else. And so Cells is our most popular game by far. It's our evergreen title that sells every year. And it surprisingly was released in 2012, and last year had its highest sales ever at its 8th year of publication. And if anybody knows the business, that don't happen. You sell the bulk of your games in the first year, the second year, and it tails down after that. If you get a game that sells well every year and then goes up, be very thankful. So I said, okay, we'll support and it's sort of the entry game for Revolution Games, the most common game that people start with. And then I decided, because a lot of people like Pacific Fury and it's different, I'd do that on Sunday. And surprisingly, it was the game that had the most people signed up for. The most people wanted to play Pacific Fury as anything, which I guess shouldn't surprise me, because when we released it at Consim World in Tempe years ago, I played Mark Simonich, Frank Chadwick, Alan Emmerich. I taught the game 7 straight times, and everybody who came over was a designer or a publisher from another company. David Heath from Lock and Load asked me to teach it to him. So it's been really gratifying. So yeah, all of our events, and even our World War I air game this morning, Eagles in the Sky, did pretty well. And we threw that one in the convention late. And I have to say, the designer, Mike Lemick, and Dave Stifler, the developer, did a great job on that. So just been really good.
The Cells is one of my favorite games that you all produce, and perhaps the first one I ever bought years ago. But whoever that designer is, you need to get some more work from that guy, don't you?
I agree. He is so hard to pin down.
Did a pretty okay job.
I keep telling him we need another one in the series, because it is Battles from the Bulge, Volume 1. You really need a 2, Roger. I don't know what's going on, but yeah.
Right.
The second one should be called Sold. Here's the question from Todd. He's saying the Revolution Games question: any plans for porting the system using Narva, Poland, and Poland Defined and Königsberg to the West Front? That would be up to Stefan, right? The designer.
Actually, of course, that system owes its roots to a Victory Lost, and that system of chip pull games. Stefan simply took it and modified it a little bit. And Stefan has started back up his old company of Three Crowns games. So he just produced Stargard Solstice using the same basic system, and he's going to be doing things on his own now. So we're open to having submissions, and this is for any designers out there. Most of our game systems, if somebody wants to design a game using the Cells Gazala system, please do and contact us. Same thing for the Blind Sword system of the Civil War. Herman and I are both encouraged designers. Same thing for that system. If you like that system of Narva, Königsberg, etc., Poland Defiant, give us a game. The problem is, and why I don't have another follow-up to Cells is I can basically design a game and spend a year, or I can develop and test other people's games that have 4, 5 games in a year. And right now, we don't have the capability for me to simultaneously be a designer and be a developer and be the guy assembling games and be the guy dealing with production. You got the idea.
Yeah.
We're a 2-person company, and that limits our throughput quite a bit.
Sure.
And we are the limiting factor, that's for sure. That's why we're trying to hire developers, recruiting designers and new submissions. So yeah.
So there you go, Todd. If you want to see it on the West Front, design one up.
You're welcome.
So you guys are you both in Sacramento?
Yes. Probably live, what, 10 miles apart, Roger? Something like that?
It's almost 20, but Richard doesn't
who's
drive.
counting?
Richard doesn't drive up here. I drive down there, so it's he wouldn't know.
My son just bought a house. You know, he lived in the Bay Area, and of course now that he's remote, he bailed out and just moved to Sacramento with his wife. I'm looking forward to spending some time up there with them, but of course, could also play war games.
Oh yeah, our door's open anytime, Harold.
So
Anytime.
somebody tell me this. Did somebody tell me the story that Roger has delivered games like instead of mailing them by just driving them to someone's house?
Yeah, but he'll go to the East Coast too, just so folks know. So we
Wow.
do charge a premium delivery fee for that, but you know, he would do it.
On the West Coast, always like Jimmy John's. He's freaky fast.
Exactly.
Part of the joke there is my day job for 30 years was in the delivery business as both a driver and a manager of fleets of drivers and trainer of drivers. So when I started getting orders from people in Sacramento, we were getting orders from people. I've lived there for 40 years and I don't know these people and they're wargamers. And pretty soon we were up to a whole bunch of people I didn't know. So I started delivering the games in person. I found a GMT playtester. I found other people I'd never known that said they'd lived there 20 and 25 years. So yes, if you live in Sacramento and you order from us, and now I've got people who drive to my garage, i.e. the warehouse, drive to my garage and get the games out of the back of the garage. And I have gone as far as Oakland, but I really don't want to get much beyond that for the delivery zone.
I love that.
We're not beyond taking them down to San Diego either for a convention either. So watch out.
If I can get you guys down here, I'll put it in an order.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, you guys do have a really great code going on now for the SD Hist people. Anybody who's in the con knows it. We're not going to share it here because not everybody is at the con, but very generous, and we really appreciate that because you have a lot of great titles and a great way to actually expand your Revolution catalog if you don't already have all the games or nearly all the games, and I don't see why you wouldn't have all the games.
I know I do at this point. So
I would hope so.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite of your own catalog? Name your top 3.
Oh, for me, definitely, I'm a Bulge guy, so Deadly Woods and Cells are up there. Probably Königsberg would be the next for me. I'm a big World War II guy. And then Washington's Crossing. That's dear to my heart because that was our first.
You, Roger?
How about you, Roger?
Wow, that's tough.
Can't say Buena Vista either.
No, I can't say Buena Vista. Cells is my favorite game because that game did everything I wanted when I set out my design goals. And that's so rare as a designer that you get everything you want out of a design. It's the scale and scope you want. It's mobile like you want. It models the history like you want. The play time is like you want. That game went together perfectly. And it took me 6 months from when I started to when I was handing them to customers. And that never happens in this business where you can just take a project. So that project was blessed. Washington's Crossing is probably my second favorite, and it's not because I designed it. I like operational games like that. I like the Zucker games that were the Napoleonic operational. I love great campaigns of the American Civil War. I just think operational games are underdone, and I really appreciate those. I think my third would be Königsberg. I love the mobility of it and how the two sides are so different in play. And it's a late war Soviet offensive, and you get to really kill a lot of Germans, which is sort of a payback for all the early war games I've had to endure over the last 45 years. So it's nice to see the Soviets kicking some rear for a change. So I think those would be my top three. Although it's really tough because Pacific Fury is right there with it. It's a really smart game. I really like Yasushi's games. If you guys haven't ever tried any of his games from Bonsai Games in Japan, they tend to be really small, really intelligent designs, and a lot of fun. So it's tough to say, and we'll be demoing that one tomorrow. So
Very cool.
So I was talking to Ted Racer, right? We did a little interview, and he's I find him to be delightful. He's just such a beast as it relates to being a designer, right? But just such a nice guy. And I was saying, why Deadly Woods? Why not Dark Woods? And he said, dark is GMT. So how did you guys get that? I mean, what was it like? Did he bring it to you? Did you go to him? How does that work with somebody like Ted Racer?
it was in between. Ted, of course, does work for more than one company. He's had games published over a number of companies. And I don't know, about 2 years ago, he sent me an email. We'd known each other for conventions before. We've talked design before and everything. So he sent me an email and said, sometime I'd like to do a game for you. And we said, fine, but nothing ever happened then with that. And I was on Board Game Geek one day, and Ted was going, in some chat, he was going, would anybody be interested in if I took the Dark series to the Bulge? And I was just there at the right instant. So I typed into the Board Game Geek conversation right there. Yeah, Ted, I'd be interested in a Bulge game. So I recruited it in a live conversation on Board Game Geek is the answer to that question.
What was the forum? Was it just the general war game forum or something specific?
I don't know where I picked it up. Ted was talking there, and I happened to click in the folder, and Ted had just posted that question, like, I don't know, 5 minutes before. And I said, ooh, good. And I jumped on it. So yeah, that was a unusual method.
That's great. That's pretty good.
That's a way to hijack a thread right there. Just jump in and say, yeah, we'll take it.
Yes. Beggars can't be choosers. You know how that goes sometimes.
You have to be
We have to be Johnny on the spot.
You have to be really quick right now in this industry. The competition for designs is pretty high right now. Compass is vacuuming up, one a week and publishing a great deal. GMT is publishing a great deal. There's a ton of other companies now. So there have been quite a few of our designs that literally were hours before another company. Stonewall Sword, after we got that game, Herman got 2 more offers within the next 24 hours for the game. And Königsberg had been on Multiman's pre-order list, and Multiman dropped it because it didn't reach the pre-order target there. I emailed Stefan within the hour of seeing it, and and got it with only a couple hours ahead of somebody else. So it's a dog eat dog world.
Now, so in trading, when a commodity is hard to find, the way we solve that is we just increase the price. So if you would just pay designers more, right, maybe 15, 20% of retail or something, you could probably get plenty of games. It's a dumb idea.
Was that a joke?
Yeah, it was a joke. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
15,
like it.
20%.
Frankly, I think it's a great idea, but
We would be in business about 1 week at 20% of retail.
That ain't going to cover margin at that point. You know?
That's why Harold knows it's
We'll
a
be-
funny joke.
We'll be paying the retailers at this point.
right, that's pretty good.
So
What
there's
about-
a question from Scott. Do you
Yeah, go
find
ahead.
yourself drawn to the chip pull mechanic?
Personally, as a designer, I like pretty much any mechanic. I just want the mechanic to fit the situation. So I'm not really drawn to one mechanic over another. So like Washington's Crossing is I go, you go, a very old style mechanic. And that's because the Americans, in my opinion, always had the initiative. And the British were always following a step behind in the Trenton and Princeton campaign. So I thought I go, you go was the right mechanic for that. Cells was a situation where both sides were maneuvering at the same time, and it was kind of erratic. And the German supply was really erratic. They would get gas or not get gas. And so I thought the chip pull dealt with the unpredictability of that situation. So for me as a designer, it's just personally, whatever I think works as a design. As a publisher, we don't get many submissions, which is why we ran the ad recently and have started to get some more. But for years, we published what looked good and we were set. So if it happened to be chip pull, it happened to be chip pull. If it happened to be area impulse, it was area impulse. It's whatever we got.
Well, here's another one. We've got, let me get to this one. What advantages does Revolution Games have over other publishers?
Well, one is it's just me and Roger. So, we can decide how much we publish in a year, how much we don't publish in a year, which games we do publish in a year. So I think that gives us a little bit of an advantage. The other, I think, is we put a lot of work into our games. Roger and I personally, Roger spends most of the time developing, but we spend a lot of time testing, reviewing the rules, reviewing the charts. I mean, we're personally involved as the owners of Revolution Games. So I think that's one of our primary advantage over others. We really want to produce a good game that we think people will enjoy.
Well, that's one thing I've noticed. I've seen Roger at SD Hist in the past couple of years. He's just sitting over in the corner sometimes just playing a game, and I've gone over and chatted with him for a couple minutes, and it's a game that you're going to be publishing. You were currently doing some development, some testing at that time. I was like, wow, you go to a con and you're still doing work even when you're at a con, and you could just be playing games. So that just shows you that the ethic that you guys have with making sure your rules are airtight, your development is airtight, and that's why your games are so much fun and really, really tight playing games. I hate to keep using that word tight, but the rules are tight, the play is tight, and that's why they're so solid. And you guys do a great job with that.
Unfortunately, we have a lot of room to grow in that area. Also, we're still not happy with, sometimes how our rules turn out, some of the errors that we have it's just really challenging sometimes to catch everything. So, but we want to produce the best game that we can. One that, at least from my perspective, that I would want to play and I'd be happy with.
So what's your biggest pet peeve for you guys personally doing what you do? What's the biggest pet peeve, whether it be from a development aspect or from a design aspect or from a submission you receive from a potential designer?
I think for two of us, and if we have to spend a lot of time developing and testing a game, it just slows down our production. So for us, ideally a complete game that's been fully tested would be great, but of course I'm wishing. So how about you, Roger?
Roger? You have any input there, Roger? You're muted.
You're muted.
I know, and I was looking for the button. I'm going, where is it?
It's been the problem all day long for everybody in Discord and Zoom everywhere.
Exactly.
The only pet peeve I have, and it's really not been with the designers, has been getting art done in a timely fashion. Let me just leave it at that. It's you'll do something with an artist, and it can be behind by months and months, and that then makes the whole process really tough to keep on any kind of schedule. And we're not real picky, but there you go.
There's a great bit of feedback from John. He says, as a younger wargamer with limited funds and table space, Revolution is a great resource. Full games at a reasonable price and manageable space requirement. Can't thank you guys enough. So that is a great bit of feedback for you guys, and a big pat on the back from John.
Thank you very much, John. That makes my day. I know that much. It's good to hear that. The younger audience that we can attract is the better. We really like that. The younger guys, if we can get them in. Most of us are over 40 plus. And I'm being generous, probably over 50 plus, but it's nice to have some younger folks who play the game.
Here's one for Roger. Mike says, some of us have spent the entire past year or last year mastering the use of the mute button.
While you guys were all doing Zoom meetings and mute and everything else, honestly, this is like the third time in a year I've used it. I literally have just spent my time sitting and playing games and writing peacefully on the computer. I told Harold and the guys last night, you got to remember, I did my first game when I did paste up. It was with scissors and paste. Literally, it was pre-computer. I made all my counters with SBI blanks and a ballpoint pen. I used Zaki hex grid paper. And I did all this. I used up, when SBI was going out of business, I bought a ton of it. I used up the last of my game design supplies in 2014 and finally got dragged into the digital revolution here with Richard's help. So when we talk old school, you can talk spot color, Ruby litho mechanicals, everything else, and I understand it perfectly. How anything's made now, I have no clue. And that includes Zoom meetings and mute buttons. And
everybody's doing digital, and Roger's over in the corner with a stone and chisel.
Absolutely.
Exactly. He's Cro-Magnon.
But it works. Keep doing what you're doing, because it works.
Well, I'm a little bit beyond that now, but a great deal of that is because Richard has the computer background that I don't. And that's one of the things that makes our partnership work.
The fact Roger is on a laptop streaming right now, you have no idea.
That's great.
Love this.
I'm going to actually answer that question.
Roger's 37.
I was a child prodigy.
Going on 80.
So actually, I'm 60. And yeah, I have that globe in the back. Absolutely. That's from my childhood, from my parents' home. I kept it after their death.
Wow.
And so I'm 60. I got my first war game when I was 14. And I designed my first war game when I was 16. So I made my first game in 1976, and it stunk. So it took me a long time to get to where I am. I'm a slow learner, so very, very gradual.
How did Revolution Games start? Was that did you all decide to start it together, or did you join after the start?
No,
Roger,
no.
Your first it was Cells your first. Well, I know Cells wasn't, but Washington's Crossing your first.
No,
design?
it goes back a long time. So in 1977, I started designing a game called Buena Vista, In 1979, I submitted it to GMT, and then shortly after that to GDW and everybody else then, and nobody bought the game. So I decided to make it even less sellable and more of a simulation to just make myself happy. And I saved up my pennies, and I hired Mark Simonich as the artist. Before Gene and GMT, he worked for me. I tell Gene that all the time. And published it in 1992 with a different company name, Fifth Column Games, no relation to the other company by that name. Sold 725 copies or so, which was not break even, and said, oh, that was interesting. I'm done with that. And Richard and I met in the early 1980s, and we just played games. You know, we were just gaming buddies, and then for years we were roommates while he was in college and I was working, and we had a game meetup that happened every week at our house where we'd play monster games for like 13 years. We had 7 or 8 people come over and play monster games in our house. The 2 crazy bachelor guys. So finally, move forward many years, 2010, I'm getting a divorce and I have no money and I'm really distraught. And Richard makes the suggestion, we should start a game company together. This would be good. I almost kill him on the spot, saying, I have no mental energy left. I've been kicked and I'm down, and I have no money. And you want me to take my last dimes and sink it into a war game company? And if this doesn't work, I'll be crushed a second time, that I'm going to be psychologically and physically crushed. And this is just before my 50th birthday. I think about it a few days and say, this is going to be a lot cheaper than going to a therapist. And I decide to go for it. And then once I say yes, Richard suddenly becomes Mr. Cautious, because he didn't think I'd say yes. And then he starts asking questions like, how much money can we lose?
All of it.
And no, I told him, no, you can't lose all of it. No game sells 0. I said, we can't lose more than half of it. And because of my experience of publishing a game before, I did have some idea how much art and production and everything would cost. And so we ponied up $20,000 of our own money and started the game company. And that's how it got started. Richard deciding that his best friend needed something as a distraction to help him. And it was one of the greatest things a friend ever could have done for another friend.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, Roger. But I think Roger overstates it a bit. But, I know Roger pretty well. If he can focus on something, he's a pretty determined fellow. So it was a pretty good bet on my part.
it's a great story, and I've heard that before. So I appreciate you all sharing it. So what games did you start off with? Did you have were there a number of games or just one, or?
Just the one. We were trying to come up with, what hasn't been done before? And then the second thing is, what will sell?
Right. And by the way,
that sweet spot.
Yeah, what will sell is what's been done over and over and over and over.
Exactly.
Conversely, right?
We should have done the Battle of the Bulge first. I mean, geez.
Right.
We overthought it.
Yeah, that effort to find something that hadn't been sold didn't really work out. So Washington's Crossing sold very slowly. It didn't break even till almost 4 years into the game's publication. So that was it's a good game. It plays well. It's a good simulation of what it is, but it was not the game to start a company with. Yeah. So.
Yep. Too long a play time. We were hoping that, it was like great campaigns similar to that, but for the American Revolution. But, it's got like a 12-hour play time. So you got to be a pretty serious grognard to get in and play that game.
Right. Yeah, but it's fantastic. Yeah, as far as first game, Roger, the lesson is you do the American Revolution game as your first game.
Yes, Harold.
It didn't matter. I think American Revolution, it didn't matter what the design was, that they were going to take it. So
you and Mark Miklos agree. I didn't have quite the same effect there. It's done okay right now. Hey Mo, I saw one question I want to answer.
Sure. Which one?
The person who asked about Ziploc games versus everything else, because it's a common question I get asked. When we were first starting the company, I'd done Buena Vista years before in a Ziploc. So I decided that was one of the problems. So I put Washington's Crossing in a box. So then I had two games that hadn't sold, one in a Ziploc and one in a box. And I decided that wasn't the problem. And we went to Ziplocs for the smaller games, and they sell just fine. We've now experienced with both Ziploc, box, and games where we published both Ziploc and box version, no particular difference whatsoever. We lose a few people when we put a game in a Ziploc. There's a few people who won't buy it, who insist only on boxes, but we pick up some other customers with the cheaper shipping especially around the world. So by comparison to, say, GMT, Gene and I have talked about it sometimes, compared notes, Revolution has an enormous audience in Europe and Asia compared to an average American company. And a lot of that is because you can buy a game from Revolution and get it at a reasonable price because of that smaller game and that Ziploc publishing. So we lose a few sales maybe on the box in one way, but we gain sales in other places. And recent games, any of the bigger ones like Deadly Woods are, we produced Zip and box. That was a run of 3,000, and we printed 1,500 boxes and 1,500 Ziploc. And boxes tend to sell early. First few months, you get a whole bunch of people with boxes. But down the road, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, Ziplocs catch up or become the majority. That's when people who are maybe didn't buy it at first or more on the fence about the game, and the cheaper price and the cheaper zipping of the Ziploc, they go, I can try it for that price. So, we're firmly committed to producing both on most games.
And Ziplocs, when it comes to just a regular Ziploc game or a magazine game, I usually put those in clamshells anyway. And the best part about it with clamshells is you can put two games in one clamshell facing both sides. So that way you can say, what do I have in this? And just look at it and look front and back, and you can see which games you have in there. And you can always obviously try to tie them together to same designer, same theme, whatever, so you can more easily get them. I've talked about that in my storage videos, and it really works well. And they can even stack on the shelf also if you want to put them up there or in the closet.
Hey, Mo.
Yeah.
What the hell's a clamshell?
A clamshell? Let me see if I can find one.
You guys act like you know what a clamshell is. Do you know what he's talking about?
It's those little storage things. I think of them as the little bookshelf holders.
Yeah.
You slide them in.
Holy cow, where do I get those? I'd
They
like
use
to buy
these
that one
for-
from you right now, Mo.
Oh, okay. We'll start the bidding at $2,000.
I do have Bitcoin if you want that.
Oh, you got 2,000 Bitcoin. That's even better.
There you go, right?
I could retire right now.
After I get my raise from Roger and Richard,
There you
from
go.
my work, I'm going to be
Yeah.
able to afford that.
I heard you're going to be publishing something with us or submitting a design. So we can't wait for that. Yeah, can't wait for that.
What's the exclusive news here on that American Revolution game?
I don't know.
from
You'll have to
Harold
ask
Buchanan?
Harold that way.
Now that's payback, Harold.
Wow, you guys heard it here first. Now we got to put pressure on Harold to give us all the
Uncle.
information on it.
Playing dirty.
But yeah, I think they're great. And, the Ziplocs are just, like you said, they're a lot easier to get to. And Brian had pointed that out, that he had gotten the, where was it? Just ordered Deadly Woods and Ziploc because of the shipping cost to Canada, which always puzzles me. It's like, yes, it's
I
another
know,
country,
right?
but it's literally across the border.
Exactly. I don't
It's like shipping
understand
from
it.
here to Texas, from here in
Exactly.
Texas to Oklahoma or something like that,
It's like it's a different country.
I know, it's crazy.
Shocking. I know, right?
The question is, Brian going to be buying clamshells now for his Ziploc?
Yes. Yes. You're going to buy clamshells.
I still want a link on where I can buy these clamshells.
I will send you that information. I have to look it up because I forget where I have it, but I do have that information. I probably even have it on the video.
Did you buy like 5,000 of them and stick them in your garage? How do you?
No. I just split a case with a couple of guys, and we ended up. This was several years ago. We bought them, and you can buy them by the case, and that's the best way to do it. When you go in with a couple of people, and that way you get like 10, 20, 30, whatever each, and then you can put all your games that you want to put in those. And you can rotate them out of, obviously, and just reuse them, which is great.
Right. That's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff Dreher always thinking American Revolution theme game with the Cells engine. There you go.
There you go. All right, Harold, that's going to be so that's going to be your next game.
Yeah, Jeff's thinking. I like that. So Roger, you once, I just bought the Korea reprint off Kickstarter from Compass. And Roger, you were telling me about we were talking about the mechanics of cells once at Consim World, and I said yes, that's reflective of the Korea game, and you said no, it's not reflective. I stole it.
Yeah, it's stolen, and even in the designer's notes, with full credit to Joe Balkowski.
Yeah.
So the cells game, the combat and movement portion of cells, is totally Joe Balkowski's Korea game. What's different is the chip pull and events married to Joe Balkowski's original movement and thirds of movement and combat system. So I would say that game is a good 40% Joe Balkowski and about 60% me. And I also was unusual in designing that game. I designed the system before I made it cells. So I knew I wanted a mobile combat system. And I said, I've always liked Korea. It's one of my favorite games. And I said, but I want it chip pull. So I did those two things. And then I went looking for a historical subject to match up with the game engine that I had created. And that is the reverse of almost how all games have been designed, because normally a designer starts with a subject. Oh, I'm passionate about this subject or that subject. And they research it and they design a game to match it. But no, Cells was reverse. I came up with an engine for mobile combat and chip pull. And then I had played the old Battles of the Ardennes by SBI, and I knew about the Cells scenario in that. I said, I think that situation will match good. And that's one reason the whole thing fell together. So once I worked at the design backwards, it came together that way. And then Richard gets the credit for the event chits in there. We had a few counters left in the game. And he goes, well, the game's good, but it could use a little bit more. And he did the developer work of making the suggestion to put those chits in there. So credit where credit's due there. He gets his part too.
So Richard's all about the random events, the catastrophic stuff that happens when you don't expect it.
I'm Mr. Chaos.
So how do we end up with Gazala after that?
I tried to do a couple other Bulge games, but the situations in most of the rest of the Bulge weren't very mobile. I looked at like Patton's counterattack toward Bastogne. He's making a mile or two a day. It just was really not mobile, or the mobile portions of the Germans at the beginning were just running over people. There wasn't enough interest for the Americans. So I tried a couple things like that. And then I said, well, where do I know something else that would make a good mobile battle? And that led me to the desert. And I thought there's some battles there that would go good with that engine. And that's how that engine got shifted over to Gazala.
So I'll stop barraging you with questions if you'd like, but I'm curious about this World War I air game. I missed your presentation today, of course, doing other things, but Can you give us a little bit of a summary as to what it's about and what we can see in the package?
Well, this is going to be me acting a little bit more like Gene here. I don't really know that well because we're too buried in our own work right now that we hired an outside developer, Dave Stifler, who also is developing with Bruno the miniature Battles of the American Revolution series with Mark Miklos and everything. And he's a first-rate developer, and he's working with Mike Lemick, the designer, who also has worked for GMT on both art and games before. And so I really saw the game played today for the first time in the demo. I'd read the rules and everything, but I hadn't seen the game played. It's a dogfight game with up to 6 planes a side. And it also has campaigns, and you escort bombers and photo recon and all that. It's from mid-1917 to the end of the war. So that's the plane era we've got. And it's card-driven with maneuver cards, but with a display that you keep relative position on of them. So I watched it today, and I would say the relative position sort of looked like up front. If you can imagine an air game with cards leading to a position display a little bit like up front. You gain or lose tailing range on your opponent. And the better your maneuvers, you get closer and closer to him. And the closer you get, the better your shots. But you can shoot anytime you're in a shooting position. So it's not like down in flames where you need, or up front where you need a firing card. You can shoot anytime you're in the right position. The goal is to get yourself in better and better position versus your opponent. So we do have a Vassal module for anybody who wants to take a crack at the Vassal module. We're happy to share it, put you in the playtest group, share it. And we did, Richard did record this, hopefully. And if the recording went well, we'll post that so people can everybody can see it and see how the game played. I will note the designer, Mike, kicked the developer's butt today. And there were a bunch of shot down Germans for virtually no damage to the British. It was albatrosses versus Sopwith triplanes, but maybe he was just trying to make the designer feel good or something. I don't know. So
nice. So do you get to drop a bottle of wine to the shot down pilots as you fly overhead?
Yeah, Dave lost one of his pilots pretty spectacularly. The Albatross has weak wings, and he had a guy who had a Sopwith triplane on his tail, and he tried to lose him by a maneuver called a falling leaf, which is you dive erratically at the ground. Unfortunately, he was at low altitude when he tried this, so he had a very narrow margin to pull out of it, and he ended up going straight into the ground and never pulling out. So it still counts as a kill, but it was self-inflicted.
Well, he's forced into it by the pursuit, so it does count as a kill then in that regard. Got another comment here about Poland Defiant, saying it's a great game. I was really surprised that anyone would do the topic because of the lopsided historical narrative. That's Alan Salazar.
Yeah, I think the designer did a good job on that game and doing a couple things. Number one, it's only the first 10 days of the Polish campaign. Mm-hmm. So he chose the period where there was a chance for maneuver of both sides and things could come out differently. And by making the design tighter like that, the choices are better on both sides. It plays quicker, and you get the crucial decisions. And you don't have to see the German terror bombing Warsaw at the end. There's no point by that point in the campaign. So yeah, I like it. So I think it came out really well, and that one was fun to develop. All that series, Narva, Königsberg, and Poland Defiant, were fun to develop. So good games.
Another question here: what would be your release date for Eagles?
we really try hard not to give much of an estimate, because we're like, Orson Welles, no wine before it's time here. So we're aiming for the end of this year, the beginning of next year, because the game had been designed originally many years ago for GMT. This was originally going to be published years ago for GMT. It was tested back then. Joel Toppin made a Vassal module for it back then. And GMT decided that they liked the Down in Flames series better. And this is like a half step away from that, doing some different things. And so it never went on GMT's P500. And it just sat around for years. And one day I was on Consim World, and Mike, the designer, had one of his planes as his avatar. And I'd seen it for like a year, wondering what game it was from. And finally, again, like the TED conversation, I saw somebody on Consim World post, Mike, is anybody ever going to publish your game? And I stuck my hand up and go, what game are we talking about here? So online trolling is a big part of Revolution Games' plan to get designs. And so, Mike dusted it off and said, it's really very close to being done. And we advertised for a developer, and the first developer fell through, and Dave's the second developer. And we're in advanced playtesting right now, where we've got a number of people playing the campaigns to make certain they work. And I feel pretty good about late this year, beginning of next year. One of the key things is we don't use a P500 model. So when something is done, it just goes to print. We just use our own money. We're really a very old-fashioned company that way.
Online trolling is my next game, according to Michael Kirk.
Might be a success.
There you go. And you know what? You know who to bring it to? Revolution.
Because we're so good at it.
Harold, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. See, at least people now know what Roger looks like. So if they see him looking in the windows of their home, looking for a game design.
There you go. Well, I think that we'll wrap it up about here, because we wanted to go just about an hour. I know Harold's beat down. He's been doing talk after talk today. We've had a bunch of events. You guys have done a bunch of stuff as well at the con, and it's kind of winding down. It's 12 o'clock on the East Coast. It's 9 p.m. on the West Coast. And the West Coast people, they need to go to bed early, because they just need to go to bed early.
Yeah.
Like Harold. No. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining in the chat tonight. Thanks to Roger and Richard for joining us. Revolution Games, great company. If you don't already buy their games, I strongly recommend you go check them out. And first game, if you don't already have it, is Get Cells, is a fantastic title. And get the rest of it.
And thanks to Roger and Richard for their support of the San Diego Con.
Yes.
They've been there for years and have supported us in a lot of different ways, and we're very appreciative.
That goes both ways. Thank you.
I want to reiterate that buy cells, because I just printed 3,000 more counter sheets. So, we have to catch
plenty of stock.
We have to catch and pass Harold's game on the American Revolution after he made those insults. So we need the first Revolution game that sells 5,000 copies. So,
oh, there you go. Well, there you go. I'm gonna go buy one. I'm gonna place an order tonight. I'm gonna buy another one just to have, so I can give away, and that way I'll take one off that 3,000 that you got there. But once again, thanks everybody for being there, for being here tonight with us. Thanks to Harold, obviously, for having the convention, and thanks for having everybody on the show tonight. And I appreciate everybody here. And we're going to close it out for tonight. And there is one more day left in the SD Hist Spring Deployment. So if you are part of the convention, you have one more day to enjoy it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We'll